My mother is upset that I wanted my wedding to be about me and my husband, by user Pyro_Nova. I 33F just married my husband 33M this past Saturday. I planned our wedding over the past 13 months. I did hire a day of event coordinator, but I did the majority of the work. I wanted simple elegance and I found a church and a reception hall that didn't need a lot of decor added. My husband and I also decided to keep our wedding fairly small, around 100 people or so. I should mention, my parents gave me a decent lump sum of cash, not overly crazy or small, to spend on my wedding as I see fit. But anything outside that cost I needed to pay for with my husband. The money essentially covered the reception costs, besides decor and entertainment and cake. From the beginning my mother wanted to invite a ton of her friends. I told her, that simply wasn't possible due to the size of the venue we booked. But it never stopped her from asking every couple of weeks to see if we could add more people, friends she insisted had prayed so hard for me to find someone to marry. I only conceded for a few couples I have actually known since I was a teenager or younger, one couple I actually speak to on a semi-regular basis. The real trouble started when I informed my mother that the tables the venue provided only seated 8. She wanted all her friends sitting at the same table. She insisted for her, my father, my sister, her brother-in-law, my grandparents, and 3 of their couple friends needed to all sit together. Claiming she didn't want anyone feeling snubbed about not being at the right table. I warned her months ago when I took her on a tour of my reception venue that this was not possible. And she started getting frustrated and asking for larger tables or different tables to try and fit a large amount of people at one table. The venue could not do larger tables. At the time I hadn't even sent out invitations, and I kept telling her that it wasn't the place or time to freak out about sitting arrangements. During this same tour she started inquiring about all these extra decor items she wanted to add that we didn't really want/need for our day. The venue has this beautiful bricked patio with trees and lights and a fire pit. It was just extra work I knew that was going to be reliant on me/my coordinator to follow through on since my mother often suffers from headaches etc. and I knew she was going to be busy with her sister and brother-in-law/any other family members. When I expressed my concerns, and mentioned that invitations were not sent and that I didn't want all the extra decor I received a very stern and angry remark. This isn't just about you OP, this is a reflection on me and your father. Over the next several months my mother insisted on several unnecessary DIY decor for the outdoors. My husband and I purchased a cutting cake/cupcake package and planned for one of the cupcake flavors to match our cutting cake and my mother insisted on wanting to get a slice of cake even though I expressed my dislike of the idea. And both of my parents insisted on all their friends at their table and I told them I would do my best to sit everyone they wanted to talk to close their table. However, that wasn't good enough and I had to just make it happen. I didn't make it happen. I sat people close together and I informed them as such. Wedding week arrived and of course I ended up having to fix up the extra decor last minute. In addition, day or my wedding I found out at dinner my parents moved their friends to their table despite sitting literally right next to them at an adjacent table. And today my husband and I discovered a quarter of our cutting cake gone. We only took one slice to share between us at the reception. TLDR, my entitled parents snuck around to ensure they disrespected my boundaries got their way at my wedding. I'm 17 and have been saving my checks until I turn 18. Will this cause any problems for me in the future? By user Bnanum1LK. When I was 15 I got a bank account opened in my name under my mom's account and have been working since then. When I got hired I opted for checks instead of direct deposit and would deposit them each time into my bank account. Under a custodial account BC in the US you legally cannot open your own bank account as a minor, perfectly fine. The problem is my mom has always been very controlling and when I was 16 I bought myself a binder and my mom ended up finding it while snooping through my room of course and grew extra strict since then. She has refused to buy me anything, including daily necessities such as shampoo, pads, skincare, food that only I like. I still get to eat food/use items bought for the whole family so it does not really count as neglect, it's just normal personal items that all teens need, because I am acting like a disgusting adult who can buy whatever she wants. I was obviously upset by her decision and the constant shaming but grew used to it and started buying everything I needed myself. The next problem came when she would take money out of my bank account anytime I did anything remotely bad. I admit I deserved a punishment at some times but most of it would be for very minor things that taking my hard-earned money was way too extreme in my opinion. Example, I made whoever in my family was picking me up from school/work wait for a few minutes, so she would take what she considered the amount of gas and time out of my account, i.e. 5 minutes equals $25. Or I would take way too long in the shower doing God knows what, I do take long showers but never more than 40 minutes, and on average take about 25 minutes, and have to pay the water bill for the entire household, a month of 5 plus ppl. Another completely BS reason to me is if I did not respond to her texts right away or update her where I was at when I was out of the house, she would take $1 for every minute I was out of contact. For context, I often work doubles or go to school then work and ride the bus to / from work and school nearly all the time. While it would annoy me to reply to her spam texts after she confiscated all my devices, for the same reason she won't buy me anything, I would do so, but the issue is that my dad stopped paying for my phone plan over half a year ago, and so I have no service and am constantly having to connect to any public Wi-Fi in order to send iCloud messages / FaceTime calls and update my location on LIFE 360. TLDR, strict mom, taking money, in my opinion, unfairly out of my bank account. In the summer of 2023 I stopped depositing my checks into my checking account so that I could continue to save the rest of the money I get from working to move out. Fortunately, I work in a chain restaurant and there is an online website where I can see every one of the payslips from the time I was hired. This way I have been keeping track of my undeposited money and know that I won't forget any paychecks when I am ready to deposit. My question is, will not depositing all my checks cause me any issues once I turn 18? I know that all the money is still legally in my name / towards the checking account, but the checks themselves expire after 160 days. When I somehow ask for them to get reissued, will there be any penalties I have to pay for the various amounts of checks I will need again? Also, if it is okay for me to continue to save them until I turn 18, how would I even go about asking for new checks when the time comes? I guess I would have to speak to my manager about it, but I don't know how to bring it up without mentioning my family issues. Another question is, once I open a new bank account solely under my name, is there any way I could get the checks that are directed towards my custodial account, under my mom's, into my new bank account? Would I just have to deposit them into my custodial account and then wire the money into my new account the same day? I turn 18 at the end of this year and will have about 38 undeposited checks by the time I am able to open my own bank account. I've already considered going straight to the bank to get my checks cashed out, but that leaves an activity on the bank statements, and I know my mom is constantly monitoring my account as she questions whenever I buy something, a charge of $28 from Amazon. What did you get from Amazon? Let me see the order. Getting a bank account under my dad's name is out of the question. He's an absent father who has not paid child support for the past 8 years and complains when he has to buy me food when I see him once a month. He would see my account balance and say I could get it myself if I asked him for anything necessary in the future, like help towards school payments. Also, in case any of you might think this is just because we are short on money / I should help my mom out with bills, we are a low-income family, but my mom has saved up money for years and is definitely not short on it. I know she has a CD account with $60K in it, and she has a boyfriend who pays for luxurious gifts and trips for her. Mom wanted me to delay hospital admission for a visit, by user Oli Fox. Recently, I posted about my relationship with my mother. Her entitlement pushed me way too far. I spoke with my therapist, and we agreed that I would go no contact until she genuinely apologized. Which, we both agree, will probably never happen. I got a lot of good advice here and found you guys to be wonderfully understanding. So here is one more story. Edit, I see a lot of confusion, and it's my fault. This happened nearly 2 years ago. But, at the time, she never really spelled out what she wanted from me, and as I am autistic, I never understood what she wanted from me. I thought she was just ranting. She spelled it out recently. She tends to accumulate your fault then blow up in your face, sometimes years later. I am currently no contact with her. I gave birth to my son a whole month premature. It was spontaneous labor after a terribly horrible pregnancy. I had so many complications that I think my OB was amazed that I made it that far. My son went to the nursery for 24 hours for monitoring and then came back to my room. We left 48 hours later. My son was slightly jaundiced, my milk hadn't really come in either, but the doctors were confident, and a nurse was scheduled to come see me 2 days later, so we went home. My mom had insisted she had to be there for the birth, and I decided to allow it. I regret it now, but that's another story. She left not long after the birth and refused to come see us after. On day 5, she called and asked that I come for a visit. She lived 1 hour from me. I was still heavily bleeding, my son seemed a bit too sleepy for my taste, and we were waiting for the nurse. I told her so. She insisted I must come to her place. I placated her at the time by telling her maybe after the nurse's visit. Nurse came, took one look at my son, gave me a bottle of formula, checked his coloring with a machine, called the hospital to give them a heads up that we'd be on our way, and sent us packing. While packing, my mom called back. I told her we needed to hospitalize my son. She then proceeded to tell me this story. When I had your brothers, 3 months early, they stayed in the NICU at the Children's Hospital for 4 months. Then, they wanted to transfer them to a closer hospital, to where we lived, by ambulance. Do you know what I did? I convinced them to let me transfer them myself and swung by to visit your grandmother because that relationship is important. I'm autistic, and at the time, I didn't understand why she told me this story. If it's not direct, clear demands, I'm usually oblivious. Which usually pisses my mom off. She told me later that I could have swung by on my way to the Children's Hospital. The thing is, I lived less than 20 minutes from the Children's Hospital, and she lived an hour away in the other direction. At best, she wanted me to delay getting my son treatments by at least 3 hours. I say at best, because once there she wouldn't have wanted us to leave. She felt she was more entitled to my son than my son was entitled to be treated for severe jaundice. My son was brought right away to the hospital without delay and stayed for 24 hours under lights. We were sent home after that because my milk had come in, he was drinking plenty, his numbers had gone down, he wasn't so sleepy and we had showed a willingness to use formula as needed. We were to come back to the hospital daily for blood checks until he was cleared. Which we did. My mom insisted that it was not needed and we could skip a day to let her see him. She never offered to come see him. Which could have worked. No, we had to drive to her. To be clear, she had access to a perfectly functioning car. We were willing to pay for parking. My house was fully accessible to her. She even had a key. We didn't skip a single day. She refused to talk to me for 2 weeks because she felt neglected. I got calls from 3 people telling me that I needed to be nice to my mom. That she had had a hard life. Again, I am on mobile, and English is not my first language. I may share more stories. My mom stole my money that I've been saving for a month, by user autodidact 9. I have been working every single day for a month without a day off because I wanted to go on a vacation with my friends after graduation. I worked so hard for this. I was saving them in my drawer, and there's a lock on it so wherever I go, I take the key with me, so today my stupid ass forgot the key on the dining table. I went to the bathroom to shower. Nobody was home except my mother and me. My siblings were at school having an exam, so when I finished showering I saw the keys on my room. I didn't care. I thought maybe I moved it before I went to the bathroom. Then I prepared my desk to study. When I finished studying I thought maybe I could go hang out with my friends, so I opened my drawer and the money was gone, all of it, nothing left. So obviously, nobody's home except me and my mom. I confronted her as calm as I could, and I said, "Did you open my drawer?" I swear I noticed her hands were shaking and she said, "No, I didn't." "Why?" I said, "Well, my money's gone," she said. "I didn't take anything." "Someone's stealing my money as well, or maybe you dropped it somewhere like you always do, you careless donkey." I said, "Well, if someone's stealing your money, why would you take mine?" She said, "You don't dare talk to me like that. I'm your mother. Close the door and get out of my sight before I pray that you'll fail the exams. What are you going to do with money anyway? You still young, money come and go." I didn't know what to say, and I went back to my room and texted my dad and told him what's happened, and he still didn't respond to me. My final exams are in 2 weeks and I can't work anymore, and we were, me and my friends, planning that on the last day of the exam we'll head straight to Sharm el-Sheikh. This is the first time in my entire life that I feel so helpless and betrayed like that. After graduation, I'll move out of my parents' home even if I become homeless. I don't care anymore. Entitled Mom brought her young daughter to sexy adult dance class, by user Ultraviolet 111. I'm part of a community group that hosts dance classes for adults. Our whole premise is to provide a space for adults to learn dances on a casual basis and have fun. The songs we dance to often have explicit lyrics and some of choreography can be suggestive. Recently, someone brought their young daughter to sit in at a heels class. The song was explicit and the moves were very sexy, and I immediately felt very uncomfortable dancing in front of this child. Not only that, but the child was causing distractions by dropping her metal water bottle, pacing around, and going up and hugging her mom during class. By the end she was even copying the sexy moves we were doing. Yuck. Our group is very unofficial and laid back, and we've never had this situation come up even though we advertise as adult and 18+ classes. So afterward we sent her a private message saying, hey, we would love for you to keep coming to class, but going forward we're not going to allow kids. She was livid. She called us inconsiderate and accused us of discriminating against single moms. Says she can't do childcare because of her daughter's medical condition. She's not worried about her daughter hearing explicit lyrics, so it shouldn't be an issue. Okay, good for you, but that's not the only issue. If we allow one person to bring their kid, then everybody can bring their kid and it becomes a childcare issue. It's also clearly an adult environment, and children just don't mesh in adult environments. The same way you wouldn't bring a child to a bar, it's just awkward for everybody else. So entitled.